What's up, podcast? So today I had a last minute cancellation and I'm already in podcast mode. So I said, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of my story. I've had a lot of people who watched or listened and some guests say, hey man, we like coming on. We like telling our story, but you haven't told yours. So we'll start from the beginning. I was born 1989. I was born in Minden, Louisiana. This is North Louisiana. Right now I'm in Shreveport. So that's about 30 minutes east of here. Born high school sweet. My parents were high school sweethearts. At about, I think, between 1 and 2 years old, they divorced, and I grew up living with my mother for the majority of my life, and I saw my father every other weekend. It was cool. My mom was tough as nails. Stayed grinding on us. Had to make straight A's. I wasn't that athletic. I didn't really get into sports. I played the t-ball and the football in school and stuff like that, but I didn't really get into sports until later in life. Got into high school, liked to drink and party, and I was chasing girls, having a good time with my friends, and I kind of didn't care about high school football or track or anything I'd been engaged in early on in life. And so we'll go to get out of high school. I get out of high school, and actually, my senior year, I decided that I was a young senior, so I was 17 years old. I decided that I wanted to go into the oil and gas industry. Reason being is I didn't have a lot of money. I'd kind of ventured off on my own, kind of got away from my mom and my dad just because I felt like I was grown and cool and I wanted to do my own thing. Nothing wrong. That's what I wanted to do. I was very independent at a young age. So I get into the oil and gas industry as soon as I turn 18. I graduate high school. I go straight into the oil and gas. Started from the bottom, worked my way up. I used to see people pulling up out to the oil rig, and they'd have fancy clothes on and nice shiny trucks. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this forever. What do they do? So I started looking into it. And about a year into the industry, I found a job at another company, started working for them, worked my way up there. About the age 22, 23, I decided I needed something to fall back on. I didn't want to do this the rest of my life. I'd seen the industry go up and down a few times. By this time, I'm probably in it 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And basically, I said, I need something to fall back on. So I realized that I could take I could stay working full time and get my education online. And at this time, what was 2000? I'd say 2011, 2010, something like that. Education, I thought I wanted to move up in this company, so I had to have a degree in order to move up. Or if I wanted to get out of this industry, I'd also needed something I had no education past high school. And in that time, you had to have that. Now they're a little more lenient on if you pursue a job based on your values or your work ethic. But anyways, so we get into, I get my degree online while working in the oil and gas industry full time. Start hanging out. I moved around a little bit. Worked pretty much all over the South, and I still lived here. Haven't ever left here as far as where my roots are at. So I meet two great guys. I'll give them a shout out: Chris Hemingway and Nick West. Chris I had met at the gym working out. At this point in time, I got into well, let's go back real quick. Let's go back because I missed an important thing. So I know some of you guys have heard some guests. I had MMA people and all that. So around 2 or 3 years into the oil and gas industry, I started watching UFC. I got into that stuff, and I was driving around delivering equipment to a company, and I saw this gym, and I was like, hey, they do MMA there. I want to go there. So I just walked in, Karate Mafia, walked right in the doors. Shout out to Andrea and Danger. You guys were there right around the time I showed up, and got into that sport. I wanted to do it as a hobby. I didn't want to do it as a full-time job. I was a mediocre fighter. I only had a few fights. I did some boxing tournaments. I did some MMA fights. I never really wanted to compete and do that for my job. I had a job. I was making good money. I just wanted to compete into that, and that was my hobby. Well, this put me into basically being more athletic. I'd always lifted weights from a young age, from about 14 up into that point, but I wanted to compete, and I learned about dieting, and I learned structure, camaraderie, being able to hang out with my teammates. No matter if I wasn't fighting, I was at the fights, supporting my other teammate who was fighting. You know, that's the game. And it was a real important part of my life for a good 6 or 7 years there. Met a lot of great people. It's been trained with a lot of people, trained with some champions. Just real fortunate to meet a lot of great individuals. And I was able to see these people progress and hang out with them and watch it. And it's just been a great experience. Now you have Andrea, who's in the UFC, and you have Danger, who's in the UFC. So that was a great part of my life. So I wanted to make sure I got that in there. And I'm still very passionate about, you know, you may see that on my podcast. You may see, you know, the guests and stuff like that. I'm passionate about action sports, but I want this to what I'm doing here to be more than that. So get back to, I meet two great gentlemen, Nick West and Chris Hemingway. Chris I met while I was working out at the gym, and he had already been friends with Nick. And basically they come to me and they said, hey man, we're doing this thing. We're doing a marketing company. We think you'll be a great fit. You want to come hang out and try to build this thing with us? And I was like, I don't know anything about it, man. I don't know. All I know is oil field and I have a business degree. But hey, let's do it. So I was fortunate enough to get with these guys. We started a company. I never plug business in here. If you want to find out what the company is, you can do some research. This is not about making money on this podcast. So we started the marketing company, and we were able to kind of ease into it. And I was able to slowly transition out of oil and gas and get into marketing. Why is this important? Why am I telling you this? Because it gave me different insight on life and structure and how you operate with people in relationships. So working in oil and gas, I'd always had relationship-based business, but there wasn't a lot of adversity. And it's basically, here are the options. You go out, sell it. But, you know, hang out with the guy who's in charge out on location where they're drilling for oil and gas. You hang out, develop a little relationship, and they'll buy products from you or services. And that's basically how the industry works. Not saying it's easy work. There's a lot that goes into that, but in a nutshell, that's it. Well, in other business practices, it's a lot more complicated. So I come out of a kind of a good old boy system into a fully business structured system. Now, at this time, I'm like, okay, what do I do? I don't know anything about this. So I felt like, okay, let me pull some of those values out of what I know and then inject, you know, as far as working for big corporate companies, even though I was in oil and gas, I worked for big companies. So I had the structure and I knew how a business needed to operate, but I also at the same time had personal experience too and talking and hanging out to people. So we started doing this thing and we're having a great time. Business is growing very slowly, but what the most important thing about this is that it changed how I function. Back before I made the transition, I wasn't very personable. You weren't going to get more than 3 or 4 sentences out of me. I would never have done anything I'm doing right now as far as speaking in public, talking to you, talking to anybody, doing podcast shows, anything like that. It wouldn't happen. But so basically, I tell everyone it took me about 10 years into adulthood to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up and figure out that I'm so passionate about this and what I do. And when I say this, what I mean is interacting with people and trying to help them. No matter if it's from a marketing standpoint or if it's from just hearing them out, sharing information. The most important thing about this podcast, I started as a hobby and it's grown and I'm loving it. It's a good time and I'm going to continue to do it until it can't happen anymore, until I can't function. I don't think I'm ever going to stop doing this, but it started as something where, hey, I think I can do this and build. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I could build some business on the back end of doing this. And then about 2 or 3 episodes into it, I'm like, man, I don't want this to be structured anywhere around business. I don't want this to be hyper local. I want this to be something that gives people some kind of value. If you're watching or listening and you listen to one of my episodes and whether sometimes I may have 200 or 300 listeners, sometimes I may have a couple thousand. And if one person out of any of those people gets some kind of value, some kind of ambition, pick me up, you know, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're stuck in a job they hate, maybe they're just not feeling it, man, you know, just need a little someone to come in, whether it's one of my guests or something I'm talking about, you know, they're able to connect with that. If I can get that, if you take one nugget from anything that I'm putting out, I'm satisfied. And I really think that that's been the back of doing this. And I'm really enjoying it. I really want to keep moving forward. There's a lot of things I want to do with the show. Going through quarantine, everything that we're going through in the country, there's a lot of diversity. I think putting out as much positive content as possible is the only way to overcome that, not to stoop to the level of getting into arguments or getting into political thrashing or racial anything. I love everyone equally. I don't care what your race, religion, political views are. It doesn't matter. To me, we can all help each other. You do good things happen. And I think that moving forward, there's a lot we can do with this. During quarantine, we were able to connect with people. I'm getting guests on now that normally when you build something like a podcast, you don't even think about virtual, reaching out to people via Zoom like we're doing most shows now, and being able to connect with people across the world, across the country. So it's really taken off and going great, and I really want to keep utilizing this. I hope that as we move forward and things start getting back to normal, everyone's getting healthy, all the precautions are taken. I'm hoping that we can also start doing some shows in person, because I do miss the studio. I want to get back in the studio, but I don't think I'm ever going to stop doing these kind of broadcasts, these kind of, Zoom, with guests who aren't able to physically come to where I'm at. So, but I do miss the in-person banter, and there's a lot more, feels, if you want to call it, whenever you're in the studio with someone and you're actually able to connect. But all that being said, I really wanted to give you guys some context about who I am, why I do what I do. This is not I don't make any money from this. I just love doing it. I just want to share everyone's story. I want everyone to get something out of what we're doing here. And that being said, let's focus on moving forward together. You know what I mean? If you're listening, if you're a subscriber, if you listen to my content, if you wake up one day and you read something negative on social media, where you normally would just jump in and start typing something to go along with it, how about don't? Or put a positive message in there, or just don't even engage in the back and forth. Let's start moving forward. Let's start trying to help each other. Let's start doing things that used to be, basically we take for granted. There's things that I felt like whenever everything shut down, we were able to come back together as a country, as an actual planet, basically. But I think that, we're always going to have some kind of problem. It's always going to happen. We're humans. We're not perfect. But I feel like we're losing sight of everything. And like I said, I just want to put out good content. I want to put out stuff that makes you feel good. Whenever you get on my show, I'm not on here to drop F-bombs every other word. I try to respect my guests if they don't have that type of personality. And if you do, hey, I'll roll along with you. But this isn't about anything. It's about nitpicking different items or anything like that. It's just about putting out good feels, man, good positive energy. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has supported me so far on this journey. We're almost 30 episodes in. It's been like half a year, and it's crazy how big this has gotten already. And I want to keep the momentum going. I want to make sure that if you're not following me if you're not subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or you don't keep up with me on Facebook or Instagram, please, I'm not asking you to go do all of those things, take all of those platforms under your wing, but whichever platform you do follow me on, if there's an ability to subscribe, please do. And if you enjoy my content, I would love for you to drop a review. If you hate my content, drop a review. I don't care. We're putting this out to help everyone. But like I said, thanks everybody. I just wanted to throw a quick episode together because I was already kind of in the zone and fueled up and ready to do something, has some energy flowing. And I hope everyone continues to get good things out of what we're putting out here. And all I can say is I love you guys. Ready for the next chapter.